I'm going to start with this, Marty, because I think, and you can take this as glass half empty or half full, either way. I think this was the most underachieving team in the nation last year for a really good team. I think they were so much better than 7-6. They had a top 5 defense in the country when everyone was there and working together and healthy. They were just a loaded team. Of course, had issues in the run game, which really hampered the offense. But not to delve too much into 22, the bottom line point is that it's 11 wins and 11 losses the last 2 years. But that being said, they killed it in 22 in the recruiting class with an easily top 10, I think number 6 in the nation. And now number 4 after 14 hard commits. What's working for James Franklin and company?
Yeah, I think what's working most for James Franklin and company is just the ability to get these kids back on campus. I mean, yes, they had that last summer, but it's a little bit different because the 2023 kids, you've been getting them on campus since last summer. And there are a few staffs in the country who kill on-campus visits more than Penn State does. And we're seeing it. You know, last weekend they host TJ Parker, top 100 defensive lineman out of Alabama, and they land him coming out of the visit. And this isn't one of your Southern kids who SEC schools didn't want. No, go look at the Georgia boards. Go look at the Florida boards after Parker came into Penn State. They were not happy. This was a kid Georgia wanted. This was a kid Florida wanted, and Penn State out-recruited them. And to Penn State's credit, they really have gotten their act together with NIL, which is vital in today's college football, especially in recruiting, to make this happen. But yeah, I don't disagree. They were an underachieving team last season. Now, I do think it comes with a caveat. If Sean Clifford does not get hurt against Iowa, who knows where that season goes, because they were well on their way to blowing Iowa out of the water. They would have beaten Illinois. I feel confident saying they beat the Michigan schools. If Clifford doesn't get hurt last year, there's a real scenario where Penn State's only loss might have been Ohio State. So I don't disagree they're underachieving, but I also think it comes with a bit of a caveat. But to circle back to recruiting, yeah, it's this staff kills with the on-campus visits. We're seeing it now. They have the NIL to throw around, and you have the number 3 class in the country right now by 247 Sports. And in the next few weeks, you might be adding 2, 3, 4 more 4-star prospects, some of which are borderline 5-star prospects to this class. Yeah, it's great to see, because one thing anyone who's listening to the show a lot has listened to Tim and I talk about is the importance of stacking classes. And as hard as it may be to believe, as good as a recruiter as James Franklin is, Penn State has never signed back-to-back top 10 classes under James Franklin. Last year's class, as you mentioned, Mark, number 6 in the country, right there with the 2018 class, or the best class Penn State has ever signed under James Franklin. And this year's class appears to be well on its way to being top 10 again. So it looks like they're finally going to stack those back-to-back top 10 classes. And when you get top 10 classes, you're talking Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Clemson. You're talking that territory. You're talking college football playoff level. So I do think that things, even with a subpar season last year, are trending in a good direction for Penn State. And that all goes back to the recruiting trail. And that is a combination of tip of the cap to the coaching staff for how good they are with hosting recruits, and tip of the cap to everybody involved to get NIL to be a big factor for Penn State.